Okay, so Claire Galpern, Constructs of White Femininity. Oh, with this in particular with the song, grounded in the song, Untouched by the Veronicas, but feel free to extrapolate however you wish.
Okay, so next we're going to play Untouched by the Veronicas for you. So we wanted to talk it through a little bit first and see what we see when we really take a look at the song. So Sable brought up the song because she thought it really brought up constructs of white femininity and like what does it mean for this band of two white women to be proclaiming like how they're untouchable and to be that what they're saying they really are and shouting out about. So let's think that through. Untouchable, what does that mean? So it really made us think about the ways that like femininity and womanhood has been constructed as white and like with whiteness throughout U.S. history. So we were like, just just the ways that like even though we don't name it, a lot of times when you say feminine or woman, like white is kind of under the surface there, and there's this whole thing about like femininity as it was defined by whiteness to mean like sexual pureness and things like that. So yeah, and then like, and also just to think about like how that didn't, fine, that's not like just for us as white women to be like, oh, that's how we were constructed. Okay, I can still sleep at night. Right? Because it's not just about us. It's never just about you. You're always living in connection with everyone else in the world and who you're with. So just thinking through like how white femininity has been constructed like very much against black femininity and how, we talk about constructions, but it doesn't stay in the world of construction. It has a ton to do with like, the realities we live and the material realities we live. And like, I was just thinking through as like, as white women were like constructed as untouchable, it happened like, concurrent with and because black women were being constructed and treated as completely touchable. And like, our caller from last week was talking about how black women have been over-sexualized the past 400 years in U.S. history. And just thinking through some things learned the past few semesters, like, even, like, seeing, like, black women under slavery and afterwards seen as unrapeable even, that, like, when black women were raped by white men, it wasn't even seen as rape because it was seen as, like,
they're so sexually available, even if consent wasn't even like there.
Right, they were just just like so alluring or asking for it or something. Yeah, so that's what I was trying to think through and like this thing that like that it happened against that and that so I just want to like call on I don't know, us to think about this song and what does it mean for white women to be claiming, like, untouchability. Yeah.
What does it mean?
Well, I personally think it has a lot to do with, like, we need to take, as white women, a real careful look at, like, what kinds of femininity are we claiming? And, like, I don't know if this can make sense, but, like, that a lot of ways, the roots of, like, white feminism have been in claiming power over women of color and specifically black women in the U.S. And like if we're finding some power in like in claiming like we're untouchable or something, we need to think about where does that power come from? Is it coming from white supremacy? Because we don't want our power, the power that we're building as women, to be coming from that. We want it to be taking that down. Yeah.
Good points.
How might like some of the things we talked about earlier in the show with like as an example of like claiming this white femininity, how do you think Katy Perry and like the little things we've talked about her
overprotected?
Yeah, and like Britney Spears saying she's overprotected.
Right,
Katy Perry, well, she's just the whole issue, and like and then after that, can you talk about like in terms of like how do you see that playing out in the song "Viva la White Girl" by any chance?
Yeah, definitely. I love being on this show. It's just overwhelming. I finally came on. I'm so happy. So, wow, yeah, when we were listening to Overprotected, we had the lyrics up, and I just hadn't really listened to them before I thought it through, which obviously Kiss My Sass helps me do a lot good in life. But, like, just listening to her talk about how what she's really doing is, like, protesting against how she's overprotected, and, complaining about, like, okay, I'm overprotected, and there's lyrics about, like, her talking like, I'm trying to say what I want, I'm trying to assert what I want, but I keep getting corrected, and that really being like what she's pushing back against. So I don't know, I just want to step back and think about, what does it mean that she gets to focus the conversation on saying, I'm saying what I want but not being heard? Like, I think that has a lot to do with being a white woman, that, the conversation focuses around what you want. And even to, like, have the power to focus the conversation there easily. Because so often, I think, historically, for Black women and other women of color, it's not about what you want.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of sexuality, in terms of, so, and just to say, like, so I think, like, protesting that, and, like, that, like, I'm still trying to think it through in life, so if, the host of the show or anyone calling in wants to talk about it, but, like, and I think it has a lot to do with class, too, but, like, what we face, like, a lot of times what our protests against what we see as sexism is, as white women, like, focus on things that are our concerns, like being overprotected. But it's like, if we step back, having no protection in terms of, like, what we get in terms of sexuality, is, like, such a much more, like, targeted and vulnerable position. So, like, I don't know, I just, so I see a lot of white privilege in Unprotected and Britney Spears. I don't know, what do you all think about? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Definitely.
Like, earlier this year or semester, I went through a phase. Well, I generally go through phases where I listen to the same song on repeat for 3 days straight. And, like, Overprotected was one of them, I think, in the beginning of the fall. And, like, I was just, like, do my power moves, like, But then after I was like, Overprotected. Why can't I relate to this? Like, after a while, I was like, after hearing it, like, 70 or 80 times or whatever. Yeah. So I liked a lot of what you said. What was another question I wanted to ask? Oh, okay. So in terms of, I really like that you connected it with feminism, or like mainstream white feminism, because I think that's a lot of the frustration you see in terms of like, why can't we, in terms of like, talking about feminism and how like bringing up race changes the subject of the conversation, and like how even when SWAC started, I remember there was an article in the Daily Gazette saying like, why are you excluding white women? And it was a white man who said that, and I was like,
Say what SWAC is.
SWAC is the Swarthmore Women of Color Collective. We meet Mondays at 6:30 in Charvel's Room 6. Swarthmore, WOCC @gmail.com. But yeah. I think you like shared some really good insights. I remember. Okay, so like we were like brainstorming about this last night, and one thing that came. I was I think it was. I had Genius on my iTunes. Like he Loves You Not by Dream Genius, to help us like figure out some of the songs that like we can think through. And one of the things that came up was Spice Girls. And for Spice Girls, I was like, for Spice Girls, like I or Sylvia don't remember. For Spice Girls, I was like, they fit this category. Oh, but not like all of them except for Scary Spice because she's a black one. But then I was like, no, she's included in it because it's like thinking about like being marked against. You did speak about that, but it was just like interesting to think about like how like the token black woman like functions.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about like connecting that to TV shows and movies. And when you see the token black woman, it's especially in romantic comedies, as Sable had said in our conversation before this, like the black woman's always the best friend.
Yeah.
And like the best friend in the story,
who's usually single, who has, if she has any problems, we definitely don't know about it because that's not like the central plot line.
We don't know anything about it. We just know she's best friends with the lead white woman, and like you don't know anything about her, and the whole story is just focused on the white woman.
Yeah. Claire, are there any like if you guys watch on YouTube, you'll understand what just went on. Yeah. But after the show, of course. Hold on. Let me